Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're going to be getting into this fall inspired makeup look. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be doing my brows first. So I'm going to start filling them in using the Anastasia Brow Wiz pencils, and I'm using dark brown and ebony. Ebony I'm going to use on the outer portion of my brow, and dark brown is going to go on the inner part since it's lighter. And I'm using two because I'm trying to get a really nice gradient effect. Next, I'm going to go ahead and use some concealer to clean everything up. I'm going to use the Makeup Revolution concealers, and I'm using 12 and 12.5 so that way I get my perfect tone. Then next I'm going to go into the Anastasia Dipbrow Pomade, also in the shade Ebony, and I'm just going to create some little faux brow hairs on the inner part of my brow. Then to make sure none of those hairs are moving around, I'm going to use a little bit of the Anastasia Clear Brow Gel next. Going back into those Makeup Revolution concealers, I'm going to use those to prime my eyes. So I'm using 12.5 on the outer portion of the lid, and 12 is going to go on the inner part of my lid. So now that the eyes are primed, I'm going to go ahead and move into shadow. I'm going to be going into the Bperfect x Stacey Marie Carnival XL Pro palette and using this dark burgundy shade. I'm going to place that onto the crease first. We're going to be doing a winged cut crease, so I'm just going to create that shape using that first shade so that way I have a nice guide when I go in to cut my crease. For the second transition shade, I'm going to go into this red called In Lust, and using a slightly larger brush, this is a Morphe M506, I'm going to start blending out the edges of our first crease color. Before I go into my third transition shade, I always like to use a little bit of Fenty Beauty's blotting powder on the brow bone area. I just find that the shadows in that area just blend in a lot more smoothly. And then to blend out that red, I'm going to go into the shade Keen, which is that bright yellow, and I'm just going to use another clean Morphe M506. And I'm really going to take my time with this step. I'm just going to make sure that everything is super well blended and there's no harsh lines anywhere. Then I'm going to go into the shade Lights Out, which is the matte black in the palette, and I'm going to add a small amount of this onto the crease as well, just to kind of give the eye a little bit of extra depth. Then once I have that color on, I'm going to use a little makeup wipe to kind of clean up the lid before I go into cutting my crease. So our eyes are looking good. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting the crease using a base from Bperfect Cosmetics. Since I already have the shape that I'm going for already kind of cut out, I'm basically just going to follow that line and just make sure everything is nice and crisp. So next I'm going to use the NYX Glitter Primer. I know you're probably wondering, why are you using a glitter primer? You just added primer onto your eyes, but there's a method to my madness, guys. So I really like this base when I'm using like pigments and stuff like that. For some reason, I feel like it just really holds on to like pigments and makes them like super like foily looking. So I love to add it onto the eye before I go into like my pigments. It's basically just to get as much like metallicness out of the pigment as possible. And the pigment that I'm using today is from Jlarue Cosmetics. It's in the shade Lemonade. Whew, this pigment is so pretty, guys. So I'm just gonna gently pack that on top of the primer. Next, I'm going to create my wing, and I'm using a new product from Melt Cosmetics. This is their new gel liner formula, and I'm in love with this gel liner, guys. It's so good. It doesn't dry too fast, so you have plenty of time to kind of work with it and make sure that you have like the perfect line before it dries all the way down. And it's just a great liner. Like, I really love like this formula. It's perfect. Then to make sure that that liner is super black, I'm going to use a little bit of that shade Lights Out again and just add a small amount on top of the liner. So now I'm going to move on to the lower lash line. I'm going to use another gel liner from Melt Cosmetics. They also came out with a green one, and I'm going to place that onto the lower lash line first. This is going to act as like our base for those green shadows that we're going to apply. And I'm going to place this onto the lash line as well as the waterline. Then going back into the Carnival Pro palette, I'm going to use a little bit of that shade Nuke to set that liner. Then to blend out the lower lash line, I'm going to go into the shade The Hype, and using a clean Morphe M507, I'm going to make sure that dark green is really well blended. Then for our last color, I'm going to go into the shade Ecstasy and add that onto the lower lash line as well. Next, I'm going to go in with my L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Primer. I'm going to add these to my lower lashes because my lower lashes are really thin. So I love using this to kind of make my lower lashes a little bit thicker. And then for mascara, I'm going to use the Lancôme Monsieur Big Mascara. I'm going to coat the top lashes first to give the lash primer some time to dry down. Usually by the time I'm done coating my top lashes, the mascara is ready to go on the lower lashes. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some on the lower lashes right after. Then for falsies, I'm going to be using some CrvstalLashes in the style 13. I do have a coupon code for this company as well. I'll make sure to put it down below in the description box for you guys. So the eyes are pretty much done. I'm going to go ahead and do some skin prep. As you can see, my skin has been like struggling. So I've been really making sure to like kind of prep the skin really well so that way my foundation looks as best as it possibly can. So I'm going to refresh my skin first using the Badescu Orange Blossom Facial Spray. I'm then going to use some of the Farsali Unicorn Serum just to kind of give the skin a little bit of extra glowiness. For some reason, I really like to have like my products dry before I go into like the next skincare product. So I'm also going to make sure that I have my fan handy so that way I can go ahead and dry each product down before I go into the next one. And please don't mind my clockable lace. I just kind of slapped this wig on for this tutorial, so don't judge me. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add some primer onto my skin. I'm going to be using the e.l.f. Cosmetics Jellypop Primer. This is such a good primer, and it's been a minute since I've used it, so I was really excited to pull it out of my drawer today and use it. It has like that kind of tackiness to it, so you just know that your foundation's going to like stick to it really well. And then for foundation, I'm going to be using the Beauty Bakerie Instabake foundation because what else is new? You guys already know I love this foundation so much. I'm going to be using the shades 319W and 317N to get like my perfect tone. I'm going to apply my foundation using a brush first and then go over everything with a sponge just to get that really smooth, flawless look. So now it's time to highlight. I'm going to be using the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in Sucre d'Orge. This concealer has a really golden undertone, so I love using it underneath the eyes to like highlight and everything. So I'm going to add some onto the under eyes, to the sides of my nose, a little on the sides of my mouth and my Cupid's bow, and I'm going to blend everything out using that same sponge. Then for a little bit of extra coverage on the inner part of my under eye, I'm going to go in with the Fenty Beauty Pro Filt'r Concealer. I'm not using a lot of this though, I'm just applying it on the inner part of my under eye. And again, I'm just going to blend it in using that same Juno & Co microfiber sponge. And then to set those concealers, I'm going to use the Too Faced Peach Perfect Translucent Powder. This has a really pretty matte finish, but it's not drying, so I love using it to set the under eyes. And then to set the rest of my foundation, I'm going to use the MAC Studio Fix Powder in the shade NC50. For bronzer, I'm going to be using the Morphe Glamour Bronze Bronzer in the shade Phenom. I'm not even sure if you can still buy this bronzer anymore. I probably should have stocked up, but it's such a good undertone. So I'm going to use that to kind of just warm up the skin. I love adding bronzer onto the forehead, a little on the nose, as well as the cheekbones. Then for blush, I'm going to be dipping into the Beauty Bakerie Scoops Elysée, I think that's how you say it, palette. And I'm going to be taking that orangey, like peachy color, and I'm going to place that onto the apples of my cheeks. And then just to touch up, I'm going to go into that shade Ecstasy and give that lower lash line an extra blend. To highlight now, I'm going to use the Beauty Bakerie Milk and Honey palette, and I'm going into the shade Be Sweet, and I'm going to add that onto all the areas that I love to highlight. So you guys know cheekbones, we're doing the bridge of the nose, tip of the nose, a little on the Cupid's bow. I added some on the chin today, and I'm also going to pop this onto the inner corners of my eyes just to brighten them a little bit more. And then finally for lips, I'm going to start lining them using my MAC lip pencil in the shade Cork. Then for a little bit of extra outlining and like detailing and stuff, I'm going to use the JCat Beauty lip liner in the shade Deep Brown. And I'm going to add that onto the very outer edge of the lips just to kind of give them like that contoured look. Then to fill in the lips, I'm going to be using the Too Faced Melted Matte Liquid Lipsticks in the shade Cool Girl and Child Star. I'm going to use Cool Girl first because it's a little bit deeper as like my base shade, and then Child Star I'm going to add onto the center of the lips and just kind of blend it in so it has like a little bit of extra highlight. And then for gloss, I'm going to be using a mixture of the Too Faced High Shine Lip Gloss in the shade Pretty Penny, as well as the Milani Keep It Full Lip Gloss in the shade Gold Dust. And then to finish off this look, I'm gonna go in with the Beauty Bakerie Sweet Grace Setting Spray. I can't even lie, this setting spray smells super strong, but it just makes the skin look so bomb. But anyways, that's pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this makeup look. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you wanna see more makeup tutorials, and hit that little bell if you wanna get a notification every time that I upload. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I love you, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.